Begins media number 3 in the deposition of Todd E. Time on the monitor is 12:29 p.m. We are back on the record.
I'm going to hand you a document that will mark as Exhibit 16. And I'm sorry, Counsel, I don't have a copy for you.
All right, well then.
You can just hand it over to him and take
Look at it with, I'll look at it with you.
Okay.
I'm familiar with LE.
Okay. Okay.
Our last exhibit of the day.
Oh, wow.
Music to your ears, I'm sure.
There you go.
Will you pull back out Exhibit 11?
What is this exhibit being referenced as or called?
Well, we'll talk about that.
16. But I mean, I didn't know what he's referring to it as. Okay. Okay.
Okay, and then flip over to that image on Exhibit 11.
Which image?
On page 5 of the attachment. And then flip over to page 4 of the document that I just handed you.
Exhibit 16 for the record.
Are there page numbers on this? You said
There's
4?
not. I don't think that there is, and I'm sorry about that.
Actually, there is on page, looks like 1, but corresponding 2, no page number, 3, no page number. You said it's 3 or 4?
4.
Got it.
You with me?
Yes, sir.
You would agree with me that page 4 of Exhibit 16 looks exactly like the image on page 5 of the attachment to Exhibit 11, right?
They look similar, but I don't know what Exhibit 16 is.
And I understand that. But all I'm trying to get for the record right now, the image on page 5 looks exactly like page 4 of Exhibit 16, right?
Objection form.
Yes, so the image looks similar, but it doesn't have corresponding reference material. That's the do not disseminate sales training purposes only, so I really don't know what Exhibit 16 is.
Sure, no problem, and that's what I'm getting to. Does this look like the master sales aid?
From 9 years ago, I have no idea.
No problem. If I reference to you, if I represent to you that Exhibit 16 is the master sales aid, would you have any reason to believe that that's not correct?
I'll object to the form of the question.
I guess
And a lack of foundation.
I don't understand your question because you use a double negative. Not to believe that it's not? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you were at some point familiar with the master sales aid, right?
Potentially at that time, 9 years ago, yes, but I can't tell you if this is it.
Well, does it have the characteristics of what would be considered a master sales aid?
Actually, no.
Why not?
Because typically it was in a hard copy where they were corresponding page to page, and you would know by the brand team whether it was FDA approved to be used in the field with a provider. So I can't tell you from this copy what this is.
I get that. So I'm sure the versions that you used were probably a lot more glossy than the copies that were provided.
That's not the issue. I have no idea what this document is, if it was approved by the FDA or not.
And so, no problem. And so, regardless, let's go back to page 4 of Exhibit 16 and page 5 of the attachment on Exhibit 11. You got both documents in front of you.
Page 4 of Exhibit 16.
You've got them.
Okay, so the same ones we're on. I thought you were changing.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. Images look similar, right?
The images do.
Okay. And you would agree with me that Exhibit 11 is for sales training purposes only, not to be disseminated, right?
States it all over the document.
States it all over the document. So it's for sales training purposes, and you would agree with me that on Exhibit 11, under the image that looks a whole heck of a lot like page 4 on Exhibit 16, that it directs salespeople to use the chart from more. Right?
I disagree, and not to be technical, but on the page that you provided to me, on every single page, it says, highly confidential, attorney's eyes only.
Oh, well, that's just stuff that us attorneys put on it. You can ignore that.
Can I ignore it? It's on the same page. I don't know what this document is.
Well, that was just put there by the lawyers.
That was just put there by the lawyers, but it's on the same piece of paper. I have no idea if this is approved to be used in the general public in front of a provider.
I get it. And then, well, and then page 4 says, under the two charts that are shown there, on the right side, you with me?
Page 4 in Exhibit 16. Okay.
You with me?
This is 16.
Yep.
Okay.
It says, in a lab study conducted in healthy subjects, N equals 11, hydrocodone administration yielded a high plasma level of hydromorphone. Did I read that correctly?
In the second column, yes, that's stated on this document.
And then it says, less than 10% of individuals are poor CYP2D6 metabolizers. Did I read that correctly?
That's what it says on this document.
It says the contribution of hydromorphone to the clinical effects of hydrocodone is unknown. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, it's unknown.
Okay, very quickly. Let's do the same thing for page 6 of Exhibit 11, of the attachment on 11. You with me?
I'm on.
And then on page 5 of Exhibit 16.
Yep.
With me? You would agree that the image on page 6 of Exhibit 11 at the top looks an awful lot like page 5 of Exhibit 16.
It looks similar, other than there's call-outs with references on the first exhibit.
In the call-outs, you're talking about the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's correct, which is references as to general reference information for training purposes only.
Sure. And then the image of 2 on Exhibit 11 is right next to that chart, right?
Yes.
And that chart looks an awful lot like the chart that's in page 5 of Exhibit 16.
They
right?
they look familiar.
And then if you go to 2
Or similar, I should
on
say.
6, or page 6 of Exhibit 11, 2 is the more on more paragraph, right?
The call-out at the bottom, not necessarily the image.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
The call out. Here, and it says in the sales training purposes only document, it says here you can use the more chart to illustrate the study delivery of medication provided by Exalco. Did I read that correctly?
You did.
Okay, so today we've seen some email correspondence where you were encouraging your sales folks to sell Exalgo throughout your territory, which included parts of Tennessee, right?
Yes.
And we saw a couple of emails that referenced pill mills, and one email that specifically referenced Tennessee being flooded with pill mills, right?
Objection.
I recall seeing one by Heather as to her interpretation.
Sure. So throughout your 21 months working for Covidien in the opioid space, did you ever once contact Mallinckrodt or Covidien's compliance team and inform them that your sales team was reporting to you a flood of pill mill activity in Tennessee?
Objection.
Absolutely not. It's not my word to use the word flood.
Did you ever once go to Mallinckrodt and Covidien's compliance team and ask them to examine opioid prescription rates in Tennessee?
I think with leadership, we were constantly examining that our representatives were representing Exalgo in the space of opioids to the PI and to the appropriate providers that were not abusing therapies.
Did you ever once go to Mallinckrodt and Covidien compliance team to report any activity as suspicious and ask them to flag or scrutinize any opioid order as suspicious?
Objection.
Not that I can recall, to Exalgo.
Were you aware that Mallinckrodt has a generic business that also manufactured and sold generic opioids?
Generally aware, but I wasn't part of that side of the business at all, so I have no idea of their day-to-day business.
If I told you that that side of the business sent 85 million opioid pills into Tennessee, would that surprise you?
Objection form, objection foundation.
Again, it's speculation. I'm not part of that business. I have no idea what they do day to day.
I'm just asking you, would that number shock you?
Objection asked and answered.
It's not for me to speculate. I wasn't part of that business.
Would it cause you concern to learn that they sent 85 million pills into Tennessee?
Same objections.
Yeah, again, I wouldn't speculate on what I had no firsthand knowledge of at all.
I promised 10 more minutes. I might have gone 11. I appreciate the time today, sir.
Thank you.
You're off the hot seat.
Mr. Dean, not
Yes.
so quickly, I have a couple of questions. Do you recall being asked earlier today about sales representatives being directed to call on target lists? Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
Did you yourself, sir, ever direct a sales representative to call on a doctor or other prescriber that made that sales representative uncomfortable?
Absolutely not.
What was your direction in that regard?
If a representative would come back to me, whether it be the environment or they felt like anybody was doing anything appropriately from a therapeutic standpoint, or patients, or the situation that they felt harassing, they were instructed not to call on that office.
Okay. And did you ever, when you gave that instruction to your sales force, did you ever get any pushback from Mallinckrodt Corporate for you telling sales representatives not to call on particular doctors?
Absolutely not. If we felt like it was inappropriate, it was my job to advocate on behalf of that representatives the reasons why to my superiors, and they were very open to that, as long as we could give them context as to why we asked them not to go to a particular spot for any reason.
Okay. With that, I have no further questions at this time.
I've got a couple of follow-ups. I'm sorry. How many times do you recall informing Mallinckrodt Corporate that your representatives reported back to you something uncomfortable they saw in a sales meeting?
Very rarely, but it was acute if they ever did. And this is for South Carolina, Georgia, Western North Carolina, and Tennessee. It would apply to all within the district if they ever felt uncomfortable going anywhere. And this would be with any pharma company. If you're not comfortable going into an environment or you feel like a provider was doing something inappropriately, you are not expected to go there.
Did you ever contact the compliance team about those doctors that were reported to you to flag any prescriptions for them as suspicious?
Objection.
No, I did not examine data to that granularity. That would often be provided if there was any data that they wanted us to verify with a representative, but that I didn't know the territory is that intimate to say yes or no.
Was there an established protocol to go to the compliance team and inform them of those problematic prescribers?
Objection. Form.
I don't have a definition for a problematic provider. If there was a specific acute story, I would bubble that up to my senior leadership to handle as they see appropriate.
Who would have that been? Bill
Directly
Nichols?
for me would have been Bill Nichols.
And would you have expected Bill to then inform the compliance team?
I would assume so, but I can't speak for Bill's activities.
How would you have done that? Would you have done that by email correspondence or phone call?
Email and or phone, depending on, but again, it was fairly rare. So I wouldn't say it was a daily activity by any means.
Would it surprise you to learn that we didn't find any emails between you and Bill Nichols where you were reporting a report from one of your sales representatives of a problematic prescriber? We didn't find a single email like that.
Objection. Form. Foundation.
It's not for me to speculate whether you were surprised or not.
Well, I'm asking you if you would be surprised that we didn't find any such email.
Same objections.
It's not for me to speculate whether I was surprised or not.
And you said that this happened very rarely. Can you quantify 1 time, 2 times, 3 times?
I can't recall from 9 years ago. It was rare.
That's it for me.
Thanks.
Hold on one second. Elizabeth, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, that concludes the deposition. Thank you, Mr. Dean.
Thank you.
This concludes the videotape deposition of Todd Dean. Total number of media used is 3. The time